Hold the hype, this is real. U.S. shipbuilding gets a major upgrade thanks to new autonomous tech and some good old-fashioned human ingenuity. Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mission Critical, the show dedicated to covering maritime matters of national defense. And, can an organization really say they are committed to maritime matters if they aren't here at the Navy League's Sea Airspace exhibition? Held just outside our nation's capital in National Harbor, Maryland, this annual event brings together officers and enlisted personnel from the Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marines, and puts them in the same room with the people building the tools, tech, hardware, and software needed to win the next fight. There are plenty of newsworthy events and happenings that came out this week, but it's entirely too much to fit into just one episode of Mission Critical. So, for this edition, we are going to hyper-focus on a new partnership between GrayMatter Robotics, Path Robotics, and HII.
What you look cool. Team up.
Called HYPR, or High Yield Production Robotics, the initiative is still very much in the early days, but the goal is clear. Apply next-generation robotics into shipbuilding from pitch to pier. Put another way, they want to bring physical autonomous intelligence to shipbuilding to both accelerate production and augment the skilled workforce. If you've never been to a Sea Airspace event, just know getting the right people at the right time to go on camera sometimes feels like you're rowing against the tide. So, to prevent myself from losing any more hair than I already have, I caught up with HII's Director of Operations and Technology Strategy, Sean Cassady, ahead of time.
What I've always been drawn to is problems that are nonlinear in nature and very complex, and that is exactly what shipbuilding is. It's perhaps the most complex production system you could possibly find.
Cassady says HYPR brings automation into shipbuilding in a much more holistic way than it's currently being used. Sure, some shipbuilding tasks are automated, mostly for things in the early process, like cutting plates of steel. But
where things get much more challenging is when you start getting into the middle of the value stream, the messy middle, if you will, where these panels and these bulkheads start getting erected into structures, what we call units and modules. That is an area where automation has not penetrated before. With physical AI, we think there's potential to bring automation into those areas. And we think that, there are some fundamental barriers that we have to overcome. And that's why the HYPR partnerships are so important, is because we're doing it in such a way that we think overcome those barriers.
Unlike in automotive manufacturing, where entire facilities are dedicated to building one very specific vehicle over and over and over again, in shipbuilding, no two sections or components are exactly alike, and thousands go into every ship. They all need different levels of surface preparation, welding, finishing, coating, and inspection at industrial scales. Traditional pre-programmed automation just can't keep up with that level of variation. But HYPR is not exactly traditional.
We bring autonomous robot to the factories. We bring in autonomous robot cells that are capable of working in a high mix, high variability environment, making decisions and adapting to the variability coming from material physics and environmental physics.
Ariyan Kabir is co-founder and CEO of GrayMatter Robotics, or GMR, one of the 3 companies to sign the HYPR agreement. He says in modern manufacturing, there are all sorts of engineering tasks taking place in the factory. Think industrial engineering, material science, process engineering, and they all deserve a dedicated AI agent of their own.
And what we're doing is not just bringing physical AI to the robots to make them autonomous, to adapt to the physical world, but we are bringing AI into all these other engineering verticals and creating domain agents. And the way we look at it is that if you look at each individual smart agent, AI agents for each of these engineering vertical, on their own, they're intelligent. but the collective intelligence becomes far greater than sum of each of those independent agents. So that holistic architecture is what we call the factory superintelligence.
Well, HII is known as the nation's largest warship builder. The company's fastest growing sector is its mission technologies division, which includes things like the Romulus family of vehicles. GMR and Path Robotics are both what I call technology integrators/developers. They take off-the-shelf products and incorporate bespoke autonomous stacks into the operating systems.
We view this partnership among HII, Path Robotics, and GMR as a very synergistic partnership. And we are bringing in this autonomous robotic cells and our factory superintelligence to build this next generation shipyard, where you can just bring in raw material and feed in design, and rest of it can be done autonomously with advanced robotics and manufacturing technologies.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, ideally, once everything, we push everything to the right, everything's up and going, everything's working swimmingly. As the U.S. Navy, I come in and say, I want a Romulus USV that's 160 feet long with these specifications.
Right.
I hand that off. You say, all right, super factory, input the stuff, and then it just goes to work with the material that's already on hand.
Exactly. And also, look, it's going to be a journey. We are still far away from having totally, human-free factories, and rightfully so. We still want to use and leverage the human ingenuity. So what we also create is the optimal teaming. In our solutions, we build out the optimal teaming between human, robots, and AI.
Building the optimal team, not replacing people. That's an important distinction both Kabir and Cassady made, because it's not like these machines are taking food off anyone's table. HII hired nearly 6,000 shipbuilders last year and plans to do the same this year. That's more than the number of hires made in both 2023 and 2024. We posted a story or an episode a couple of times ago where we talked about Path Robotics very briefly, and always rely on the internet comment section to have a critique, right? Somebody was like, oh, so you're taking away jobs from people. One, there's more open jobs than skilled workers available at shipyards right now. So my answer was, it's kind of augmenting. It's not really taking away jobs. Because,
absolutely, yeah.
Right? Can you, in a better, more educated, well-informed way, explain how these technologies that are coming to bear are not taking jobs away? They are augmenting and helping the folks who are there?
Yeah, so if you think about our strategy is to accelerate throughput. And to do that, there are a number of actions we're taking. One of them is building an industrial base, around us by outsourcing work and expanding our own internal operations to focus on our core work. So this automation, we're intentionally, starting separate from the yards because we think of it as an augmentation to feed our yards with the units and the modules they need faster to build faster.
So how fast until we have shipbuilding robo-factories in the U.S. supply chain? Well, Sean Cassady says 2026 is going to be a year of demonstration, meaning they'll first prove individual technologies can work on their own before then stringing them together to perform actual full-scale actions. And they're not trying to eat the elephants all at once. They're ramping up in manageable steps carefully to make sure every piece of technology works on every part. If all goes to plan, HYPR's first autonomous cell capable of producing small welded structures for ships should be ready in 2027. Now, of course, that timeline could change in the future, but that's the latest that we know right now, at least about HYPR. But we learned so much more about all sorts of other things at this year's Sea Airspace event, like distributed shipbuilding, the 25-year celebration of REMIS. Also, HII announced a new purchase for 4 new unmanned surface vessels from the Romulus family of vehicles. So, like I said, a lot of great information coming out at this year's show. We will have all of that and more coming out to you over the next few weeks, so keep it tuned right here to Mission Critical. In the meantime, I'm Ryan Robertson for Mission Critical, signing off.